Greetings, Posh Life partners. It's Patricia. I hope you're having a great day, and thanks again for joining me here on Patricia's Posh Life. Before we begin, I would love if you would like and subscribe to my channel. And please, I'm so interested to hear any comments that you might have about what you do in your life to make things glamorous, exciting, elegant, classy, and most of all, posh. And who was my favorite Spice Girl? Of course, Posh Spice. And she apparently has gone on to do quite well in her life. So, but sincerely, I appreciate you guys joining me today. So, um, wanted to talk to you today about something that's really important to me in my posh mindset, and that is the activity or the exercise of having a high tea. And in my introductory video to this channel, I talked about how we use these teas, my husband and I, in our home to get to know people, to connect on a meaningful level, and why we do that. And so I encourage you to go watch that video, and I'll be sharing more about the motivation behind these events that we have in our home. But now I just want to talk about the bones of the actual event itself. So, generally speaking, when I have a high tea, it's a situation where I have recently met someone, or I have friends that I've not seen in a while, and I just want to reconnect. I want to keep the, as they say, noise to a minimum, and I want to find out more about what's really been going on in their lives, how I can help, what I can do, how I can support them. And so for me, the most important thing is just get a date set as fast as you possibly can. One of my big, I guess, pet peeves about our world today is that we talk a lot about we need to be more connected. We need to be more human. We need to be this, that, or the other thing. But yet, when I go to a restaurant, I see entire families doing this. I see young people in a group doing this. I see couples doing this. It's like everyone in the world doesn't even know how to have a conversation one on one anymore, which I find very sad. And so, one of my rules is for tea is that, we keep phones to a minimum. Of course, we always make an exception for people who have babysitters and children at home and need to stay in contact if something happens. But our gatherings are not about watching each other's videos. They're not really about looking at pictures of each other's grandchildren, or, sonograms of a new baby, or wedding photos. It's more about the art and the language of talking effectively and communicating with another human being so that you are deepening a relationship. That all sounds really heavy, I know. So let me get into the basics of what I do. So I am not a cook at all. So I cheat a lot when it comes to food, and I do something called high tea, which, if you know anything about tea or anything about the tradition of tea, it is a tea that generally has a lot more heavier foods. So more meat, more instead of just the little finger sandwiches and sweet treats, it's a little bit of a heavier food. And a lot of times I have men who come to these teas with their wives or their families, or by themselves. Um, and they really appreciate having something that they can kind of sink their teeth in. And they almost always comment, wow, I thought this was going to be this prissy little thing, but you actually had something I could really eat, and that made me feel comfortable. And again, for me, it's all about, setting that environment and that ambiance in your home to where people feel comfortable. And that even goes down to the food. So back in, let me just say, aristocratic England, um, there was a lady with a capital L, who got really hungry because the tradition at the time was you ate breakfast and then you only ate dinner, but dinner was very, very late, like at 9 p.m. or so. So around 4 or 5 o'clock, she would get incredibly hungry and tired and, as they say in England, peckish, which means you're kind of grumpy, hangry, we would say in the US. Um, and she would have this high tea, which would be a little bit more substantial, um, things to eat to tide her over until that later dinner, which usually involved guests. So that's what I strive for. So, in the basics of having tea, my first goal is to just simply book a date with someone, and you'll find, unfortunately, that people really are afraid to commit. It boggles my mind, um, especially at my age when you have friends who unexpectedly pass away. Things happen. Life is not always kind to everyone, and so for me, that may be the only opportunity I ever have to sit down with someone and help someone and find out more about their life. And so for me, pushing for that date and that commitment is the number one thing. The second thing is, after we get a date and agree on that and a time and all of the logistics, then just finding out, hey, do you have any allergies? Do you have anything you're sensitive to? Are you on a special diet? My husband and I um, have some strange eating habits. I'm allergic to chicken, of all things. So I have to be very careful about what I'm eating and, needing to know what things are cooked with, like chicken broth. And so I try to apply my sensitivities to other people. And people are very appreciative of it, especially when you have things like nuts, with so many people serving nuts as kind of a staple. But many, many people these days are allergic to nuts. So I try to be really sensitive to that. As I mentioned before, I don't cook. So I do a lot of things, like I will take a pre-made chicken salad, but then I will kind of spice it up a little bit, literally with some spices, or metaphorically, just by adding things like grapes or apples or nuts if they're not allergic, and try to make those things that may be purchased ready to eat in the grocery store, but make them a little bit more special. Make a chicken salad sandwich, but cut off the crusts. Put a little fancy little toothpick on a certain style of sandwich. Use a different kind of bread, like brown bread, that they may have never eaten before, and it looks really great on the plate. Next thing, in addition to the food, I try to include a little bit of food for everyone. And by that, I mean, you have some people who don't eat sugar at all in my world, or, they want to use natural sugar instead of processed white sugar. So I try to address dietary concerns, put raw vegetables out there, cheese, meat, sweets, of course, finger sandwiches, nuts on the table. I have a lot of people who love it that I put a huge bowl of M&Ms on my table. I don't know what, M&Ms are the language of love. Apparently, everybody loves to have M&Ms on the table, and it's hilarious to me how many M&Ms I go through when we have teas. And so then, of course, once I decide on the food, I'm very blessed to have several sets of china that I use. I mix and match them. I have different colors. And I actually think about the personality of the person who's coming to tea. I think about what they would like. Do they want something a little bit more formal? Do they want something a little less, a little more casual? Do they want something more colorful? Do they like flowers? Do they like a certain color of green or pink or whatever? And because again, all of that is going to make a person who comes into my home comfortable. Another big thing that I find that people forget about in terms of ambiance in your home or setting a certain environment in your home is music. Music is so important in setting a tone in your home. And so, one of the little cheap tricks that my husband and I use all the time is we go to YouTube and we literally type in music, bossa nova, smooth jazz. I I have a tendency to stay away from music that has words because I don't want any additional words other than the words that are being spoken around the table. And when you start playing that calming, relaxing music, even before your guests arrive, I feel myself calming down, because I'm always like, oh my goodness, I want to get things done on time. I want to make sure that everything is ready to go. And as you know, if you have guests in your home and you're serving food, it is all about timing. Do things need to be heated up? Do they need to be on ice? Yeah, and it's all about timing. And sometimes, if you're not used to entertaining, that can be incredibly nerve wracking. So, for me, that helps to just kind of smooth out my rough edges and be able to go, okay, everything looks great. The other thing that I also do is I use two things, and that would be flowers and candles. Candles really, even if you're having tea in the middle of the afternoon, bright sunlight out, candles really do make a table feel very intimate. They make it feel very special. I mean, we all remember at times when we've been dating, probably where, we had that candlelit dinner at some point, and how that's just, it just feels different than just, oh, let's turn the lights on and let's get down to eating. Excuse me. So I also, excuse me again, I also try to choose my flowers based upon um, colors and symbols. So there's a whole language, you can research it on the internet, of what flowers mean what and the hidden messages and symbolism of those flowers. So, goodness gracious, sorry. Um, for me, setting that table, it's not really about what fork goes where. And you can find all of that information on the internet. It's really about thinking about who's coming into your home, what will make them the most comfortable, so that you can get to that experience of sharing stories, creating memories, having this posh life mindset. Because really, a huge part for me of the posh life is the relationships, the people that you have around you. Because at the end of the day, when you're sick, when you're broke, when you have trouble in your life, your kids are in jail, or whatever horrible things are happening in your life, it is those treasured, valued friendships and relationships that really are the most important thing. And that, for me, is the centerpiece of my posh life. So thanks again for joining me here on my Posh Life channel. And please send in your suggestions or comments. Please like, subscribe, and I look forward to us being together next time. Posh Life Partners, take care and make every moment a special one.